So, here we go.
It was filled with childish frustrations and complexes which the police were searching for James Thomas.
Hello. You're listening to Midnight Movie Gang. It's currently 6:31 p.m. Night Movie Gang, and I'm joined here with my buddy Joseph.
Hi.
And my good college friend Deep T.
Hello.
Hi. And today. So for those of you just tuning in, if this is your first episode, this is Midnight Movie Gang. This is a show where we kind of talk more about kind of cult cinema, sci-fi, horror, like genre film, and like lesser known cinema. I definitely put this in the realm of like cult / lesser known because we're talking about like a lot of old movies today.
Yeah.
To jump out of curiosity, what do you guys consider like this movie is old? Like, what's the year cutoff that year and before?
Old?
Yeah.
I don't know, like 90s and back.
90s and back.
Probably, honestly, 2000s and back at this point.
Okay.
Because that's 20 years ago.
Damn, make me feel old. Deep D, what about you?
I mean, it depends on who I'm talking to when I say old. I want to say that, like, as like a holistic rule of thumb, just if it's in black and white, that makes it old. But
Yeah.
Damn. So
I know,
Wizard of Oz is brand new. Came out yesterday.
Old's
brand
a
spanking
gradient.
new. I've spoken to people that are like, oh, I won't watch a movie that was made before like 1990, so that might be a common cutoff. I feel like.
I don't understand that.
Yeah. I feel like the right now, or at least I'm thinking like, at least when I was in college, I feel like people would say like anything before 2000 is old.
Yeah.
Which is nutty to me. For me, I feel like
especially true now.
yeah. I feel like set like kind of 70s and before. Like Jaws is the first old movie in my brain.
You don't consider 80s movies old?
Not super. I mean, there's some later like
Was it 1984 is what, 40 years ago?
yeah, that is pretty old.
That's 40. That's a 40-year-old man if someone was born in
I don't know. I'm just trying to pick the brain. I guess it's more like, I don't know, the people who are alive during, like, how old are Bill and Ted, the actors, right now? You
old
know?
as fuck.
Like Keanu, like what are they in their late 40s or whatever? Yeah. Anyway, so the movie we're talking about today, we've been on a bit of a samurai run, ever since watching Seven Samurai. For people at home, you can go back and listen to that episode. We're not necessarily talking about a particular movie today. I guess we're gonna want to focus on Sword of Doom and Harakiri. So the four movies we kind of watched and prepped for this are Harakiri, Sword of Doom, Yojimbo, and Throne of Blood. The first two movies led by Tatsuya Nakadai, pronouncing that right, and the latter two movies starring Toshiro Mifune, who both of these guys are like legendary samurai, like known for like roles in like these samurai movies and like other films as well,
like the big movie stars of the time.
And in actually all these movies we watched, half of them each of them show up in each other, you know what I mean? Like they're both in Sword of Doom and they're both in Yojimbo.
Yeah.
So
You also you mentioned Seven Samurai. Nakadai gets like it's not like a purposeful cameo, but he shows up for like 3 seconds as an extra. So you've got that in there.
Oh, is he like one of the guard? Like, does he like is he one of the bandits that gets killed or whatever?
It's like when they're in the village and they're looking for a strong samurai, and he like walks past the screen, and they're like, "Whoa, that guy looks strong," and then you never see him again.
That's funny.
And then he comes back for the later films.
That's awesome.
That is pretty cool. Yeah, it makes sense that he's, from what I understand, like I was watching a bunch of interviews and like YouTube video essays leading up to this, and Nakadai very much like looked up to Toshiro Mifune as I think he used the word like senpai in the video, but like as a like someone to like
an idol
to like base himself off of, like trying to like, you know, capture like his, because Mifune's the older guy. Also, Mifune's movies, both the ones we watched, came out before the Nakadai movies, which makes sense because like we'll get into it, but and I want to see you agree with me, but I would say that like Mifune and his movies and like more his era, where like late 50s, early 60s, are more closer to like traditional kind of like samurai movies, in the sense of like they're like they're not really breaking down things as much, whereas like both of the Nakadai movies we watched very much are kind of like
they're kind of critical of the whole concept.
Yeah, they're kind of critiquing the genre and like different things about it. But we'll get into that. I want to stop rambling, and I want to ask both of you guys, what are y'all's experiences with kind of samurai movies, this kind of content, these actors, these directors? Joseph, in particular, before I introduced you to all these movies, like, what did you know? And Deep, to you go first, because you're our new guest.
Yeah. For me, samurai movies, I actually started getting really big into particularly Kurosawa movies back in high school because I didn't get out enough. So this is a topic that's close to my heart. I still haven't seen all of Kurosawa's filmography, but I have dove quite a bit into Mifune's stuff and Nakadai's stuff. Yeah, for a while I want to say in high school I tended to lean more towards being a Mifune fan, but I think nowadays I think I appreciate Nakadai more. I like find him to be a more versatile actor. I don't know about you guys. We could just save that discussion for later, but I think that's where I'm at right now. I don't watch as many Japanese movies nowadays, but I like to go back to these every once in a while, and they're still good. I already watched Sword of Doom and Harakiri right before this episode, and I mean they still slap.
They do.
Deepty's like, this is old hat for me.
Yeah.
This is old news. Been there, done that. No, but that's very cool. Yeah. I remember in college, you definitely talking about like a lot of these movies, and I feel like I don't know. I didn't have the what's the word? I guess like the film exposure to really appreciate them. Like it took like trying to watch Seven Samurai for the third or fourth time in order for me to like really start clicking with it. But I'll get into it when I talk about my history with them. But Joseph, what about you? Samurai shit.
Well, I was kind of I'm notoriously uncultured. If you've listened to the show before, this was my first exposure to like any like classic samurai content, like in general, aside from like video games and stuff. Obviously Ghost of Tsushima, which we've talked about, but that's an American production. And it's basically just that game is very heavily inspired by these movies. Like they're like its core inspiration.
100%. Probably Harakiri, like some of the most visually.
Yeah,
I feel like, but go on.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm coming into these completely blind, and I had a really good time with all of them, pretty much. Yeah. Like they're my favorites.
Do you guys have much background in like samurai history either? Because I know I'm mainly just interested in samurai movies. If you ask me about like feudal era, I'm like, there's nothing there for me.
I mean, you're the expert. I mean, as far as like as far as like real shit, there's definitely a lot of things and conversations that me and Joseph had about like what was going on at the time, and like a lot of the themes they seem to be covering. That like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's like some comparisons we can make to more modern issues.
Yeah, but no, I am 100% layman. I don't know much about Japanese history in general, aside from the big catch up that they did in the 20th century.
Yeah, in terms of samurai being used as like a thematic tool, like I mean, obviously there's probably a little bit of historic context needed in a movie about samurai, but
yeah,
I feel like the thread I tend to see, and like especially with some of the movies we're talking about today, especially like Harakiri and maybe even a little bit in Yojimbo, samurai are sort of like, I want to say, I'm trying to think of the right word, I guess congruent to like those sort of like World War II ideals of like Bushido and dying for your country and dying for the emperor, that sort of the idea of rigid honor. And then like a lot of movies I guess that deal with the concept of samurai later on are sort of kind of wrestling with that concept of like authoritarianism, how like oh, maybe we shouldn't be swearing fealty to our masters because look where it got us. Yeah, there was a really big cultural shift post World War II for some reason in Japan. I can't imagine why.
I wonder why. I mean, that's definitely that contrast you just said is definitely something that I definitely can see with the later movies that we watched.
Definitely.
As far as like especially something like Harakiri is literally about like
It's critiquing that kind of power that these guys had.
Yeah, and I mean a comparison that I heard with Harakiri. I guess we start talking about or I want to say this before I go into my history with samurai movies. A review I was listening to of Harakiri. There's this podcast called Criterion Connection, where they're just going through like the whole Criterion collection, and in their Harakiri episode they talk about how the comparison they made was kind of like how veterans are treated in the US. Just looking at like in general, like you have this whole group of people, this whole like class that you've created specifically for this wartime and specifically like to do this one thing. Yeah. And then in Harakiri,
you just want to throw them away. Yeah.
Exactly. And like and in Harakiri it's a time of peace, and it's like they don't do anything to support this group of people that currently don't have anything to do.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
I can see that parallel.
Exactly. Whether or not that's like necessarily purposeful, and I don't know.
It feels purposeful in retrospect.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily know how the other way too, like thinking about the time, I don't know what Japanese veterans of World War II, I would assume they would go through something similar. Yeah. And that maybe could be some of the basis.
Well, it was like I believe, and like take with a grain of salt everything I'm going to say because I'm very ignorant.
We're me and Joseph especially are American.
But my understanding is a lot of the time when soldiers returned from war and didn't die in battle, that was sort of a sense of dishonor that was thrown on you. Like it was sort of you were kind of expected to either die or win. So if you return in defeat, then that's like a dishonor unto you. Did you see Godzilla -1?
Not yet, bro.
Oh man, it's relevant.
Oh, it's so good, dude.
Yeah.
I know. We had been in the mood for it. I've been on different kicks. I really want to watch it though.
Yeah, it's relevant to this conversation. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. That'll be its own episode for sure.
Yes.
Deep D, do you agree with that comparison there?
Yeah, I'd say that sounds about right. I mean, like, most of my cultural knowledge comes from just watching more of these movies, not necessarily being like, I don't read books. That's for chumps.
For fucking nerds.
Reading, ugh.
Yeah. But like a lot of the movies, I think that I have seen that deal with these kind of like veterans of the war are more like, wow, yeah, we just kind of sent these children off to die for basically no reason, and like, yeah, it was a bad idea to do that. So like, yeah, again, like wrestling with that kind of mindset from World War II of like, you know, dying for your country is good, and then you lose the war that you were dying for, and you're like, well, now what? You know?
Yeah, we just caused all this damage, and we have nothing to show for it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at the end of the day, and you know, it actually kind of makes sense that these are all pretty universal themes, and like it's putting my political hat on a little bit. It's actually something that I remember I was watching. Ooh, what was that noise?
Oh,
that was a potentially bad noise. Deep D, can you still hear us?
I can hear you guys.
Okay. Oh wait, I know what that was.
What was it?
Not my.
What's the noise?
The charger got unplugged. It's all good. I'm gonna edit this out. Anyway, but something that Akira Kurosawa like was in like a lot of his movies, like there are underlying themes of like you know, a common theme you see across a lot of these movies is like just people stricken by poverty.
Yeah. You see a lot of poor people in these movies.
And definitely something that he you know, talked about like in interviews and stuff, it was how critical he was of like hyper capitalistic, you know, kind of societies and stuff. And it's this thing that like it is a trend in everything we see, is that like the wider the gap between like, you know, of wealth and like of power, you're going to see like, you know, the lower class being more and more abused. And like I feel like we're seeing this particular window in this particular culture's version of that, and that's why it's like, you know, it's just so universal because we just keep seeing it again and again and again, and in the stupidest way. I'm thinking about it in fucking did either of you guys watch any of the Star Wars anime, Star Wars Visions on Disney Plus?
No.
Remember the Ronin episode, or Joseph, you said you didn't see it?
Nope. But
I think that was like one of the last ones, right, in the first season.
That was the very first one of the first season. It's basically just like they take all the imagery of these it's basically samurai imagery shit, but they add lightsabers. Which is Star Wars in its own right, but the backstory of that character, the character's name is Ronin, or like it's an unnamed, very much going back to Yojimbo kind of thing. Like the backstory of that character is that he was a Sith that basically didn't want to go along with like what the Empire's plan essentially, and like chose to basically stand up for the little guy and use like dark side powers for good or whatever. And I don't know, it's same kind of thing happening there in Star Wars land.
Crazy. I mean, it's a fair comparison, right? Because I mean, you have George Lucas and Kurosawa basically like. I mean, Lucas was like a huge Kurosawa fan. Like you can see his influences all over Star Wars.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, you introduce these movies as kind of like cult and underground, and they are like they're not really widely watched like now. I wouldn't say, but the way that they like movies would just be entirely different now if these movies didn't exist.
Absolutely.
These are some of the most influential things. It's like when you I don't know, it's like when you I think I've made this comparison before, but it's like when you play Half-Life 2 and you're like, wow, this just feels like every other shooter that came out after it, but that's because it's so influential.
Yeah. The other day before I had seen Yojimbo before, but a few days ago me and Joseph watched his first time watching it. I watched Fistful of Dollars for the first time before we watched Yojimbo. Yeah. And that movie is literally an unsanctioned remake of Yojimbo. And it's like, wow, this giant movie that influenced like everything was ripping off this movie. Or ripping off so strong. Was based on this movie.
Yes. Without crediting it.
Well,
so like, because I think Kurosawa did eventually end up suing Leone, and like now like they legally have to mention it's a remake of Yojimbo. I think the quote from him is like, you know, Sergio Leone made a very good movie, but it is my movie. Like,
I deserve credit for this.
Yeah. Well, I think I was watching. I need to look more into it, but it was a thing where it's like, it was just that Sergio Leone couldn't secure the rights. Like he tried to get the.
Oh, I see.
He tried. He tried to make it a sanctioned remake, but for I think the studio he couldn't get the rights, and he's like, "Well, fuck it, I'm doing it anyway."
Also, that's an Italian movie, isn't it? Technically.
Yeah, the spaghetti westerns.
Man, we've been talking about it as if it were American this whole time.
I mean, it's
Clint
like,
Eastwood's in there, you know.
That's
like
true.
Clint Eastwood's the main guy. And also like, the idea behind them is like Sergio Leone was like such a fan of like old school American westerns.
Yeah.
And he wanted to make like, you know, the ultimate one, or like or went on to make the ultimate ones. I have only seen Fistful of Dollars. I haven't seen For a Few Dollars More or Good, the Bad, and the Ugly yet.
You know, we've been on this samurai kick. Maybe we need to get on a western
cowboy kick.
Yeah.
Cowboys and Aliens next up. Now that
Let's go.
wait,
that's your first go-to.
that's gonna be next month's commentary.
Cowboys
and Aliens.
All right, I'm down. I'm down to watch some shitty movie.
That's gonna be so good. Oh, by the way, Deep T, I don't know if you you know this, or I guess I'll let the audience know this as well. We now have a Patreon for Midnight Movie Gang, and
give us your money, please.
Yeah. One of the main benefits of the Patreon is so one of the main benefits is that we're uploading a monthly Patreon exclusive commentary track for a movie. The first one, the one that is currently up, and our first one because we launched it at the beginning of this month, is Signs. And we've been talking about what movie we want to do next. I think Cowboys and Aliens would be a really fun one.
We'll just do only alien movies for you guys.
That'd be cool. The vibe of what I want to do for the commentary is, I'll let people know, is like I want really mid movies that had a lot of potential. Like that. Those are the kind of movies I want to do commentary.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Van Helsing.
Van Helsing, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Oh man, nothing but potential. Literally nothing but potential. That movie's shit.
Yeah. Before we kind of bust into, I guess we can start talking about like the actors soon. But before I just want to mention that my personal history with kind of samurai content is like somewhat similar to Joseph's in that, like, yeah, I guess when I think of Samurai Jack is probably the main thing.
Oh yeah.
I think of like I grew up watching Samurai Jack, loving that show.
Samurai Jack is nothing but influences.
Yeah. And then I think that as far as like this class of content, Seven Samurai was the second Criterion Blu-ray I ever bought.
Nice.
And I bought it back in high school, and I bought it during the sale. I bought that and 12 Angry Men.
I just want.
That's like 19 guys.
Yeah, movies where the title is just about the number of guys in it.
That's true. 12 Monkeys.
You eat 5 guys while you watch them.
Yeah, eating 5 guys while. That'd be a cool. 19 guys. And I watched. I watched 12 Angry Men because it was really short, and Seven Samurai was intimidatingly long.
It's a long movie. Yeah,
and I don't think I attempted to watch it in high school at all. I just sat on the shelf for a long time, and then I think in college, I forget. I think in college there was Deep D. I think like Corey or like the group was watching Seven Samurai, and I like came in. And I watched a little bit of it, but I was really high and I wasn't really paying attention to it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think we were watching it on Discord stream, which just not the best quality to watch that movie in, I feel.
That is true. I feel like all these movies, we've been rewatching a lot of these. Joseph has a big old TV at his place.
Yeah.
And all these movies look great on his big old TV.
I got it on sale. Yeah. I'm not rich.
Well, I mean, big old TVs are a dime a dozen nowadays, period, too.
Yeah.
You can get big old... like 70-inch for like $300.
And me rewatching these now is like, oh, this is my first time watching these movies that is not in like DVD quality on my laptop. Like
that's true. Yeah, like at least 1080p.
Being a true film nerd is realizing just how much DVDs suck to look at.
Yeah. Well, honestly, sometimes letting the audience know, deep to you know. I've been watching all the Friday the 13th movies recently because I got a Walmart. Well, after we saw in a Violent Nature, I wanted to watch them, so I got a Walmart DVD box set.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think the fact that they're shitty DVD quality adds to it.
Yeah.
Because they're like shitty old horror movies.
Yeah, I remember during quarantine, I put in. The moment I remember the moment I realized it because I put in the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead and I had it on DVD and I watched it and I was like, oh my god, this looks like shit. What's wrong with the DVD? And Avery's like, I don't see what you're seeing. Like, no, it sucks. No, we have to stream this. No, I can't watch it like this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a thing where it's like all of the DVDs were tested for like CRT TVs and stuff.
Yeah.
Like they weren't thinking about like flat screens at all.
I blame them though. Yeah. I hold a grudge.
And, now we're in the era of the 4K Blu-rays, and I don't know. I have a weird. Deep. Do you still collect Blu-rays at all or 4K Blu-rays at all?
Because I was big on collecting DVDs for a while, but like now that my setup is not just like a DVD player that I plugged into my laptop, it's become less rewarding because I'll look for Blu-rays and like 4Ks and stuff because like I can play those, but like the price point is higher, so it becomes less exciting to look for like $15 Blu-rays than it is to look for like $3 DVDs, you know?
Yeah, 4Ks are tough for me right now. It's just been like depending on the movies, and also like there's a secondhand chain around here called Half Price Books.
Yeah.
That has a lot of like, it's cool because each one of them usually has like an international film section. So like I've got a bunch of like multi-pack like 8 Jackie Chan movies on one disc kind of thing, and a lot of those older martial arts movies, I don't mind that they're DVD quality because it's not like high fidelity image was their main filming, but for certain things, like, 4K can really help. I don't know. I feel like the jump from Blu-ray to 4K was not nearly as big as DVD to Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Just as far as, like...
That's true.
Especially if it's, like, a newer movie, if it's, like, something's been downscaled from, like Godzilla versus Kong or whatever. Like, I'm sure the Blu-ray version of that movie... does not look all that much worse than the 4K version. Cause
the difference between 1080 and 4K is not as big as you might want to believe.
Yeah. Sorry. End of that weird rant.
Let's talk more about resolutions, actually.
Let's talk about these actors. Toshiro Mifune and Tatsuya Nakadai. Am I pronouncing that right?
Tatsuya Nakadai. That's close enough, you know.
Yeah.
Tatsuya.
He's alive, by the way. So
oh shit!
Yeah,
Really?
He's old as shit. Yes.
What's he look
I think
like
he's
now?
still working too.
He's 91 years old. He's kind of hot. Not gonna lie.
Does he still have the look?
Great granddaddy, kind of. He's got a beard. He was actually in a movie. He had a samurai movie come out a few years ago.
Really?
Can I spell?
I've got a little pop up here that says the app might not be working. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. You can cut that part out.
It says, yeah, you're good. It says app is not focused. It does that sometime. Yeah, here he is more recently with his big eyes. But no, he was in a movie relatively recently where he plays like an older samurai who returns to his village or something. It's like I got
cool.
Damn, he was in a lot of movies.
Last time I checked, he was doing stage stuff too, which feels crazy at his age.
Yeah, that is pretty nuts.
That's sick.
Well, I know that he does. I was watching a video. There's this like theater in New York City that he goes to every year and like does like he shows and does like a Q&A of like one of his movies like at this theater in New York that you can like go and ask him questions about it.
Oh my god, wait, is he still doing that?
I'm pretty sure the video I was watching was from 2 years ago.
What a madman.
So I'm assuming that he is. What the fuck is the name of this movie I'm thinking of? 1 second, folks. I gotta find it. It's called like, I don't know. I was looking at a trailer for it, but he was in a movie a few years ago where he plays like an older samurai. But yeah, he's still out there doing stuff.
Cool.
You know, for Nakadai today. Yeah, he's 91.
Holy shit, really?
Yeah.
God damn.
How old is this photo?
You old as fuck.
You don't look that bad.
Yeah.
These are some of the more recent ones. Anyway, but yeah, he's still alive, still out there doing stuff. Yeah, no. So, I guess what I want to ask you two guys is, as far as like their performances, their like presences and stuff, these two, tell me, this might be a weird question to ask, but like, who do you prefer, like performance wise? Who do you think embodies, I don't know, like the samurai better? Like who's more interesting to watch? Which like their types of performances? Tell me like what you think about, like who you prefer, I guess, as a protagonist.
Deep T, you can go ahead.
I can go ahead. Yeah, like I mentioned before, I think like nowadays I tend to prefer Nakadai. I think like compared to Mifune, he comes off as a more versatile actor to me. Like seeing all the roles he's able to embody, like he does antagonists well, he does protagonists pretty well, I think.
Yeah.
He's able to embody the emotions of these very complicated characters well. He does have, compared to Mifune, I don't know if this is something you're going to go into later, but compared to Mifune, he does have like a formally trained like stage acting background, whereas Mifune just kind of like happened into his career out of accident. I don't know if you guys know the story there.
I did not know that.
Oh no, tell us that story.
Ooh, okay, because this is a good tangent. I think the telling of it varies, but like it's basically like he was looking for a job at the studio as like I want to say like a photographer or something, because he worked in his father's photography studio or something like that. But he was looking for a photography job. He ended up getting roped into like an acting audition. The audition apparently went really badly, but Kurosawa was at one of the auditions, and he was like, "Oh, this guy has an aura.
This dude looks like a samurai.
He's got the stuff."
I believe I saw a quote from him calling him attractive, which like fair. But like he saw him at that audition. He was like, you know, this guy has the juice. Let's
We're
get
talking
him
about
in
Mifune,
there, you know?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he hot. Yeah.
He hot, yeah.
I will say. I thought that from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, that is the other side of the coin, is that, like, I do think Nakadai is a more versatile actor, but Mifune, just as, like, a leading man, like, he has the charisma of a leading man, you know?
You said this, Joseph, you said this when we watched Samurai. He's got actor face.
He does. They both do.
Yeah, no, I guess it's just as far as, how to put, no, Mifune just has the more, like, I guess, just traditionally masculine, like, leader kind of look.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see that, like, within the kind of roles that he's known for. Like, even in Throne of Blood, where he is playing a psychopath, he's still like the general leader guy, you know. He's still the quote unquote hero, I guess, and like they show him very heroically in that movie, like all the time as well. But but yeah, no, cool. Joseph, who do you prefer?
I think I prefer Nakadai. Just based on, like I said, I've only seen these 4 movies, but I kind of like this sort of like distant stare that he can do. I like this like this like weird detached thing. I mean, like I think it kind of errs on the side of a little bit corny, especially like a couple,
especially in Sword of Doom.
Yeah, and Sword of Doom especially. But I don't know. I like this sort of like. I think I just prefer the character of like this sort of world weary psycho samurai as opposed to like the traditional like honorous, I don't know the word. Sort of traditional concept of a samurai. I like this sort of like darker take on it. I think I just prefer his characters to the actor.
Yeah, of what we've seen so far.
Of what I have seen.
Yeah. I feel like with Mifune, like one of his most known characters, like my favorite performance of his, honestly, is still him in Seven Samurai.
Yeah.
Kikuchio, I think his character's name is.
Yeah. Mifune.
Yeah, DP. Sorry, you were gonna say that?
Oh yeah, Kikuchio. You got it. Yeah.
Yeah. And mostly just because like that's his character actually has a lot of depth, and like I feel like, and like I said, these are the only movies of Mifune I've seen. The only other ones that we didn't watch, Sanjuro. I saw him in Sanjuro, but I'm not a huge fan of Sanjuro personally. But when he can get unhinged, I love it.
Yeah.
As far as like when both of these guys go to like the kind of extremes, they go to such a different places.
Yeah.
Like you said during Throne of Blood, like when he's going crazy in this movie, it's like you said, it's like somebody's dad who's normally like really cool just losing it.
Yeah, I really liked him in Throne of Blood. I think that's my favorite role that he's played.
Yeah. No, like he showed like a lot of depth, and while like I think as far as like his like statuesque like stereotypical samurai, my favorite that I've seen of him is probably him in Sword of Doom, but that's just because like he exists in contrast to the character we're following, who very much isn't that kind of samurai.
Yeah.
It is kind of him like lampooning that sort of stoic samurai image, right? Because here he is like juxtaposed against this like freak samurai. You know?
Yeah, against this fucking weirdo,
this psychopath.
Yeah. I feel like with us talking about so do we want to we keep on talking more and more about Sword of Doom. I feel like would we all say that like so of these four movies, would we want to talk about Sword of Doom the most? It seems like we keep coming back to Sword of Doom.
Sword of Doom is kind of like the biggest outlier to me, I think. Like it's the one to me where the samurai is definitively a bad person. Like the lead character is definitively just a straight up glassy-eyed psychopath who just loves to kill people, like very explicitly. Like that is a point that is not subtext. Like the movie very blatantly tells you like he is only happy when he's killing people. As the only thing that brings a smile to his face.
Compared to the other three, it's also very much like, I mean, it's not as deep, you know. Like Yojimbo, I guess, has kind of like a live action cartoon thing going for it, but like you can tell it's sophisticated and like the way it's shot and whatnot. Sword of Doom is just like, what if there is this crazy guy, you know?
Yeah.
What if Michael Myers was a samurai?
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely the most pulpy, I think, of all four that we've watched.
Yeah, pulpy's a good word for it.
Yeah, pulp is a great one.
Actually,
sorry, go ahead, Dee.
Oh, I was just gonna ask. I was curious what you guys thought of the ending of Sword of Doom, because for me, it's something that's grown on me with every rewatch. But I know the first time I saw it, I did not fuck with it.
I thought that it would have been better if it was not the ending. I think. Because the vital context that LC clued me in after the fact was they were planning on sequels that never got made.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just a very frustrating way to end a movie. So to sum it up for people who haven't seen it, they
spoiler alert for this.
Yeah, I'm not going to get too detailed.
70-year-old movie or whatever.
It's basically all the pieces are set up throughout the movie, and then the main character kind of just knocks them all down right at the end, and we have no idea what leads to what happens after.
He just kind of like goes nuts, like is confronted with all of the ghosts of his past.
Yeah, all the horrible things he's done.
And he just goes on a little bit of a spree, and it doesn't even end with. We don't even see
all
the
these
end of the spree.
Subplots are set up and never resolved, and yeah.
And he just kind of like the movie ends on a freeze frame of him like mid slash.
It's a pretty good action scene, though. Of just him killing probably like 40 guys.
Yeah.
I wonder what the actual kill count on that scene is.
It's gonna be pretty good. Do you think
it's insane?
Yeah. I wonder if it's a higher kill count than the end of Harakiri.
I would think so.
Yeah.
That would be my assumption.
Yeah. But as far as the ending goes, I also wasn't a huge fan. I was confused more than anything else the first time.
Confused is a good word.
I saw like I was definitely like throughout the first time I watched it, I was looking forward to the fight between him and I forget, was it the younger brother or the son of the guy that he fought? It was the younger brother.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to that final fight, and then when the main thing was like, wait, what? It didn't happen? And I looked up to see if there was a sequel, and I saw that there wasn't. But like, I don't know. It's kind of this thing where it's like, so I was looking up the reasons why. So this Sword of Doom is based off of like a pulp series of, I believe, novellas, and there have been other adaptations of this story since that movie. Like, I think there's been some made-for-TV like versions that actually do continue it.
Cool.
But everyone kind of agrees that like Sword of Doom is the best, like, especially Nakadai's performance like is the best version of that character. And that like a big thing with it is like it was such a well-known kind of story in the zeitgeist that people already knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, I didn't.
It's weird because the closest analog I can draw to Sword of Doom from things that I've seen is like American Psycho.
Mm-hmm.
That is a good comparison. I mean, because it's like, you know, this guy that does a bunch of evil stuff, and then like at the end of the movie, it's his sins metaphorically closing in on him.
Yeah. He's a guy who's in kind of a position of power who just takes advantage and does horrible things. Yeah, and it comes. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I kept thinking of. Is like this is a lot like American Psycho in feudal Japan.
Yeah. I guess in general, I want your guys' opinion on. I've heard some people kind of say about movies and stories in general that like like you have to be able to like relate to, or like you have to be able to, like, your protagonist has to be justifiable, or like has to be at least be kind of a good person.
Yeah.
Do you think that always has to be the case, or do you mind, like, do you think it's an okay thing for stories to follow people who are just truly objectively evil?
No, I mean,
Has the person who said that considered the fact that I like seeing Tatsuya Nakadai be a little freak? Like,
just a weird little guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about American Psycho.
That's true.
Like, there's a lot of movies where it's just watch a bad person who eventually has to, like, Goodfellas. I mean, I guess that, like, those, like, characters in Scorsese movies are at least, like, kind of relatable, but...
Yeah.
I guess, like, the dichotomy I always hear is, like, if they're not likable, then they have to be compelling on some level, and even if that's just, like, it's a fun performance...
Just
like,
be interesting to watch. It's the only thing that a protagonist needs.
Exactly.
Yeah, for some reason, the first example that came up in my mind was Saltburn.
Just a weird little guy.
Just a weird little dude.
Just talking about weird little guy movies.
Barry Keoghan for the 2025 remake of Sword of Doom.
Oh my god.
You know what? Yeah, I could see that for him.
Let's go. Yeah. So, as far as getting into one of them, I want to talk a little bit about. We've just been talking about how great he is as like a villain and that, and he's also. I want to talk about him in Harakiri, but I also think that he is kind of the more traditional villain in Yojimbo as well. Like, his character doesn't have a lot of depth, but I feel like it's cool because
he's got a gun.
He's got a gun. He's got a gun. Yeah, but like in general, sort of. I feel like all the characters in Yojimbo, like especially the villains, are very much kind of caricatures. Like it's him. And then there's like the younger brother who's just like a fucking idiot. I forget the character's name.
I think Deepti put it really well that it's kind of like a live action cartoon.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of the characters are very like archetypal.
Yeah, it's very much a Saturday morning cartoon kind of vibe.
Yeah. It's like I think I said to you, it feels very Hollywood, but that's like a very retrospective concept. Like,
way to look at it, yeah.
Like, yeah, Hollywood feels very this movie.
Because it just inspired so much. I'm trying to remember what that character's name is.
Guy with gun.
Yeah. I also want to
infinite bullets.
I also want to say
the Nakadai character was Inosuke. I can tell you that one.
Inosuke.
No, but the guy who was like he had the messed up teeth and like he was an idiot.
Oh, the idiot.
Yeah, the unibrow.
The dumb
The
guy.
dumb guy.
Silly little guy.
Yeah, the silly guy.
Was it Ushitora? Wait, no, it was
That's probably silly guy.
Inochi. Wait, yeah, younger brother. He's a strong fighter, but is very dim-witted and easily fooled. Yeah. The whole time he got the shit from him. I wanted to talk a little bit about Nakadai in Harakiri because I feel like that's the only movie of the movies we watched where he is portrayed as a good guy.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's for me personally, it's kind of interesting because I feel like the things that make him such a unique performer, he uses that for, like, I feel like in other movies, in Yojimbo and Sword of Doom, he's bringing just such this coldness to his presence. Like he's like in Yojimbo,
He's got those eyes, man.
He's got those eyes, and I remember Akira Kurosawa told him Nakadai is for Yojimbo. Your character is a snake. Just think about it that way. Like your character, like that is what you are, and he really brings that energy. But I feel like in Harakiri, he takes that and switches it up to like you feel his desperation.
Yeah.
And you feel the desperation of
Well, it's not. It's just everything is gone now.
Exactly. Somebody who's just lost everything.
Nothing matters anymore except for this one thing I'm doing.
Yeah, and that intensity he has, he just flips it to where it's like, yeah, like instead of using it for like being an intense villain, he's just like an intensely desperate hero. But we haven't talked about Harakiri yet at all. Deepti, what do you think of Harakiri?
I mean, it's great. Like, what can you say? Like, it's kind of a perfect movie, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Joseph, I know you said that it's your favorite of the bunch that we watched.
It is, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. When we watched it, it was my first time seeing it as well, and I definitely know that my perspective got kind of flipped because I feel that's one where we can actually go through the plot, I think, a little bit. So if I remember, the movie opens up at this. 1 second, you can bring up the Wikipedia.
Samurai place where all the samurai are.
Samurai place where there are all these samurai.
I think it's called Japan.
They're in Norway. They're at Cobra Kai Dojo.
That was good.
In 62. Yeah, it takes place in Edo in the year 1630. So Ronin arrives at the estate of a clan, asking to commit Harakiri. To deter him, the senior counselor at the senior counselor at the estate tells him a story about a younger Ronin who showed up at his door asking for the same thing.
It's very well put, Elsie.
Yeah, very well put. Who basically, like, this young Ronin came in, and they thought that he was trying to trick the estate and trick this clan into, like, basically bringing him into their fold.
Yeah.
And, like, giving him a position in their clan because there was a rumor about another samurai who did the same thing.
Because God forbid he not be starving on the street.
Exactly. And they basically forced this kid into committing Harakiri with a bamboo blade. So it's like
that scene
slow.
is crazy. That is like this movie from like 1962.
Yeah.
Like still one of the most gruesome things I've seen in a movie.
All these movies are violent.
Yeah,
as
that's
fuck.
something I wanted to bring up. Was like I was surprised at just how violent all these movies are, even by like today's standards. They're graphic. Like they are not afraid of blood, which is something I appreciated because I'm fucking weird and desensitized.
Like all the violence.
Just to feel something, you know.
Yeah, you know. To me, it's just regular bread.
Yeah. I mean, like, in general, I was saying earlier when we were watching Throne of Blood today, like, I feel like they have Japanese media has such a different relationship to violence than like we do.
Yeah.
Like, as far as like we were talking about Battle Royale, how like actual kids are being murdered violently all the time in that movie.
Yeah.
Battle Royale might also make a fun commentary episode.
Yeah, probably.
But that movie's not mid; it's just great.
Yeah, maybe not.
We would just be gushing over it the whole time. Maybe we'll watch Battle Royale 2.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to do a commentary on any movie that has subtitles. I have to stop and read because my brain doesn't let me talk and read at the same time.
Battle Royale has an English dub.
Oh,
we'll make fun of how bad the English dub is.
Hell yeah.
Oh, that was another weird thing with I wanted to say. So we were watching Throne of Doom, Throne of
Throne
Doom.
of
Throw
Doom.
them together.
The 7 Thrones of Doom.
That's the next King Giz album. But we were watching Throne of Blood, and they had 2 different English subtitle tracks on the.
Oh yeah.
I got the Criterion Blu-ray, and it's like one. It seems like it was the original English subtitle, and then this new one is like a new subtitle translation done by like a Kurosawa expert.
Which I don't know what
that's
that means, but that sounded like the better one.
And we watched with that one.
And it was better.
We don't know. I am gonna rewatch it
For
again
all I know.
with the original subtitles. But what was I talking about?
We were talking about Harakiri.
Violence. Oh, yeah, violence and I don't know. And I feel like across,
Bamboo sword.
even when I think about like content made for younger people, like I don't know, like we've talked about anime in other episodes as far as like growing up watching even anime that I feel like is geared towards younger kids. There's a lot of violence. Like growing up watching Naruto gets so violent as fuck. Deepti, what do you have any opinions on violence in Japanese media and how it's different than the U.S. and all that?
Yeah, I mean, not much more than what you mentioned. I do remember, I don't know if this is still true. I do remember hearing somewhere that, like, at least in certain video games, they'll, like, censor the blood. I don't know why it's, like, I don't know why for video games specifically, because, like, clearly, like, these movies are very graphic with, like, how much blood they show.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Like, yeah, it's interesting the way, like, different cultures will respond to, I guess, censorship and violence and whatnot. I know that, like, I mean, in India, like, for example, like, those movies will get pretty violent on, like, a universal rating, but, like, for a while it was weird if you showed 2 people kissing, like...
Yeah, I heard about that,
Yeah.
That it was, like, a really big deal when it actually happened. That's
yeah,
cool.
so it's, like, it's very interesting. It's, like, pornography is straight up illegal in Japan, and then, like, you have all this, like, horrific violence that's, like, okie dokie, yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I feel like wherever you go, you look at like everyone has. I feel like every culture and their media just has different levels of like how much sexuality are we going to accept in our media and how much violence. And you look at somewhere like you look at. I'm thinking about British content, British TV, for example. Like I feel like I had a phase where I was watching a lot of British TV shows, and I feel like even the ones that are marketed towards younger, like general audiences, are a lot more open about sex and talking about sex and shit than in America.
Yeah.
Versus like here, it's like we can be kind of weird about sex for general audiences, but
they could have nudity on network TV in England.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wild.
But here it's like, you know, violence is okay for everyone. Like there are so many PG-13 horror movies that kind of break. That kind of still.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
That is weird.
Isn't that weird? It's weird here too.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's weird everywhere. Yeah. I just got this thing I'm thinking about. I feel like it's not samurai movies, but this just has me thinking about. I haven't been watching them recently, but like for a while, in the last few months, I've been on a kick of watching a lot of old martial arts films.
Yeah. Like
Shaw Brothers movies and stuff, like from the 70s. And I feel like how gender roles are portrayed in those movies are just so weird and fucked up. Like, I forget the name of the movie, but there's a Jackie Chan movie where like the whole thing is like he's lived his entire life in this kung fu temple, and he's never seen a girl before, and he's like a grown ass man. And there's a whole fight scene, and I forget the name of the fucking movie, but like. There's a whole fight scene where like there's this woman who visits the temple, and he's trying to take her clothes off because he's like trying to see what girls look like, and it's like a whole fight scene he has where he's just trying to remove her clothes, and it's like Jesus fucking Christ, and it's played off like comedically.
Okay.
Like that's and
maybe there's a reason you forgot the name of that movie.
Just trying to block it out. It's in the Emergence of a Superstar Jackie Chan box set, like the Criterion earlier movie box. I don't know but that also could just like exist in the early or more in the early. I mean, then again, there was some pretty fucked up shit in Police Story as well.
Yeah. There's some stuff that didn't age well.
Yeah, there are police in that movie. Yeah.
And it's their story. That's
Yeah.
that's a good point. Yeah, I always forget about I just remember. I just like when he jumps through glass. And jumps through.
I like the part where he almost killed himself at the end.
Yeah, I want to do another Jackie Chan episode.
Okay.
Maybe some about ones that have aged better. I want to do a Drunken Master episode. But yeah, no. So talking a little bit more about Harakiri, and we're on to the action and the fight scene. Something about I feel like the last like last 30 minutes of Harakiri is like all the badass samurai action.
Yeah.
It
kind of hits you like all at once
in that movie. It's just like such a big payoff. Sorry, go ahead.
It feels kind of crazy. No, it's like it feels kind of crazy because it almost shouldn't work, right? Because you have this like very heartfelt story about like victims of like society and like circumstance and like this horrible heart-wrenching story, and then like at the very end it turns into this like badass samurai movie, and you're like it should be a tonally dissonant thing, but it's actually so satisfying, right?
Yeah, it's like a revenge movie where you don't realize what the bad guys did until the end, and then you get the house scene from Django Unchained.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask you guys about, because like I haven't seen a lot of those like I think revenge genre movies, and like I was wondering if comparing it to that would be apt.
It's like one of those sort of where you flip the first and second act where we don't know exactly where the bad thing happened. Yeah, and then he kills everybody and he turns to the samurai and he's like, you get what you fucking deserve.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when we watched it, Harakiri, I was semi on the clan side in like the opening.
You were on the clan side?
Until what point, Elsie?
Well, not that clan.
Listen, hear me out.
I was on the side of the estate and like being like, oh, this kid's trying to fuck them over and trying to fuck with the code. But the whole point of but like, that's because I thought that was what the movie was trying to portray to me. And then, throughout the movie you learn like, oh, the code is kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
And honestly, that is really the thing with Harakiri versus like something like Yojimbo, is that it's funny that it's like considered one of the best samurai movies of all time when the movie is literally telling you, they're like, yeah, all this samurai shit is bullshit.
Yeah.
And that is
this code of honor is out of convenience.
Yeah, and that's the lesson of it. And I was, like I said, it was literally just because I didn't know who we were really following in the beginning of Harakiri.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as far as like, oh, is this about just like some con artists trying to like fuck over this honorable clan, and then you learn they're scumbags.
That's why you're on the clan side.
Like I said, I was semi on there. I wasn't like fully in it. I was indoctrinated.
Sure,
I like wizards and dragons, and they confused me.
I needed to see the truth.
I mean, to be fair, like later on in the movie, there's like, this is something that's, I feel like it's because I've seen this movie so many times, but this is something that's really funny to me, is that like a lot of like Nakadai's like line delivery, like when he's in the E clan, the courtyard, like explaining his story, and like he's using this very formal language, but he's like so deadpan. It's like the energy of like a passive aggressive work email. Like
it's like he's mocking them to their face.
Yeah, and like towards the end, he's like, obviously a samurai should never debase themselves like that to try and get a job. However, I believe your response was a bit of an overreaction, like this dramatic like understatement of like
as per my last email.
Oh, that's so true. I got a dumb question for you guys.
Okay, I have a dumb answer.
Deepti, did you know? You probably know, but
yeah, they know.
Did you know that George Lucas asked Toshiro Mifune to be Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Oh, trust me, I know. This is like this haunted me for years when I found out. Like,
no, I didn't know until like last week. And the question I have for you guys is, what do you think the world would be like if Toshiro Mifune was Obi-Wan Kenobi?
I used to think about that every goddamn day. Actually, I was like, I could be living in that world.
That plus, this is the big. That plus, if that had happened, who would you want to play younger Obi-Wan in the prequels in this alternate timeline? in the early 2000s, who would have played Asian Obi-Wan?
I want a CGI young de-aged Toshiro Mifune.
So true.
That's my official answer. Deepti, what do you
I
think?
mean, like, cause like I remember thinking about it and being like, I just don't know that many like Asian actors that were prominent in the late '90s, early 2000s that like.
But maybe there would have been more.
That's true. That
The
would have been
domino
a
effect.
what it would have done for representation. Or I remember a question I asked you, Joseph. Do you think it would have affected the popularity of Star Wars? And
yeah, I don't think it would have affected. I think it would have affected. I think it might have made Japanese cinema like slightly more popular in the West.
Because
Yeah.
I think like, in terms of Mifune's role in America, I think like his most notable one was like he was on the TV series for like the original Shogun,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I remember reading about that.
which like I never saw it. I think it was moderately popular, but like I don't think people were in their homes like, oh my god, Toshiro Mifune's here, you know? Like,
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Daniel Day-Kim is sexy Obi-Wan Kenobi.
That's the
Well,
answer you were
he's-
fishing
he's-
for.
He's Korean, I'm pretty sure. So.
you know what? I'd let it pass because I like him. You know, like,
Yeah. I don't know. I remember there was a lot of controversy with what's it called? John Cho, in the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies. There were people who were pissed because I'm pretty sure he's a Chinese actor, and the character of Sulu is like George Takei is Japanese, and the character of Sulu is very specifically Japanese. I remember there were people that were pissed about that.
I'd have a de-aged George Takei play young Obi-Wan.
Yeah, Obi-Wan.
just George Takei in like a backwards baseball cap, like Jigsaw.
riding a skateboard.
Hello, young Padawans. But yeah, can we actually talk a little bit about since we mentioned Star Wars, can we talk a little bit about just gush about all of the Kurosawa shit just in the Star Wars movies? And like how like I remember the first time I saw Yojimbo, and during that scene where Mifune just like chops up them bandits or the guys at the beginning, and it's literally just the scene from A New Hope in the bar where it's like, I've done all the crimes, like and like it's just the same shot, the same angles, the same type of editing, just like literally George Lucas just took it, and then all that, like I don't know, Deepti sense. What?
I mean, I could just rattle off the ones that come to mind right away. To be honest,
well, we don't have to go through. We don't have to go through all of them. Although I will say my favorite one is the fact that Kanbei from Seven Samurai is the inspiration for Yoda, like his head rub, like it's the Yoda head rub is that. But I don't want to go through all of them. I want to ask you, when was the first time you watched Star Wars?
So that was, I mean, because it was technically my gateway drug into cinema, if you will, just like going into the movies and then like finding other movies the actors were in and so on. So I want to say the first time I saw it was like, I guess that would have been when I was 15. It was before The Force Awakens came out because I was like trying to catch up and see it in theaters.
Cool.
So I'm assuming you guys have a longer history with Star Wars.
No.
Well, the reason we don't have to answer that. The reason I ask is because I wanted to ask you, has post you diving into Kurosawa and all of this like this samurai cinema, has it affected your view of Star Wars, or have you watched them since, like specifically through that lens, or anything? That's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah, because I mean, like, for me, I feel like Star Wars manages to have enough of its own identity that, like, I feel like a lot of the Kurosawa influences that I notice, or, like, I have seen pointed out in Star Wars are more just, like, fun Easter eggs, like, C-3PO and R2-D2, they're based off these characters from Hidden Fortress, which, like, if you want to have a bigger episode about, like, Star Wars and Kurosawa, you should have a Hidden Fortress episode.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I feel like it's more like, oh, you can see like the bits and bobbles of where this gets influenced. The whole like, I feel like a big one is like, you know, the whole Jedi Order being sort of like space samurai thing, and how like, I guess by extension in the prequel trilogy, you can see them being kind of ineffectual as an actual entity. But like, yeah, I would say that like once you have that background, it doesn't so much. I feel like people that call Star Wars a ripoff of Kurosawa's movies are being a bit hyperbolic. I feel like it's more just like, oh, look at all these little bits and bobbles that you can see Lucas being inspired by.
Yeah, George Lucas and like Spielberg too, or they're just all like, I love these references and I want to put them in my movies.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking more about in terms of like after watching all these movies, I'm excited to go back and look at Lucas's directed. I'm specifically talking 1 through 4 because it more has to do with like there's a lot of filmmaking techniques and a lot of editing choices and like a lot of things that I noticed that he really like, even down to like the transitions. Like Kurosawa used all these wipe transitions, and George Lucas straight up just like, I'm gonna do more wipe transitions.
I like those.
You know, and I saw this stupid YouTube video that was talking about. So they watched Revenge of the Sith, the Japanese dub in black and white. Mm-hmm. And they're talking about like, yeah, you could see all these comparisons with Kurosawa, and I want to do that, just as far as like, I don't know, try to just draw more that content.
Well, one comparison I would really like to bring up, The Last Jedi, the throne room fight that everyone loves to dunk on because they're just standing there. Why don't they just all attack them with their swords? If you watch like any like swordplay fight like in any of these old samurai movies, like it's working with the same kind of language. Like it's that kind of.
They're all just kind of shuffling around in the background, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I might have to bounce back against that a little bit. In that,
fight nerds, fight! I have no dog in this fight. I don't care about Star Wars.
Here's the thing: if we're talking about like a lot of these fight scenes in these older movies, it's not. So, in these older movies, like I'm thinking about just the end fight scene in Harakiri specifically, just to have an example of that, and like what makes that balance back and forth good is like the reason why there's a natural ebb and flow and there's like stopping is because, and the reason why everyone isn't jumping in is because no one wants to get hurt. Mm-hmm. Right, and like nobody wants like, he might hit one of us if we go near, and that's why they maintain that distance. Versus the Last Jedi fight, for example, there isn't. It only works if everybody pauses, is what I'm trying to say. If like everybody versus like with the Last Jedi fight, most of the people in that fight are moving and jumping around all at the same time, and it's kind of like a cluster. But there are some people who are like waiting out in the edges, and that's what kind of makes it feel weird. Is like everyone's going crazy. Almost everyone's going crazy except for these people.
I don't know, man. If I was in that room and I saw like, I'd be like, no, they got it. I don't think they need me in there like specifically. I think they got it. There's enough guys in there.
I'll just wait.
I mean, like, I guess that's a fair point, is that, like, particularly in the climax fights of, like, Harakiri and, like, Sword of Doom, like, you can see them, like, visibly hesitating. Like, the context of those scenes is more just, like, this guy's super badass and everyone else is, like, trying to figure out how to approach this, whereas, like, the power balance in the throne room fight is, like, a bit different.
Because, I mean, like, all you need is, like, one swipe and your life is over. So it takes some heavy consideration, right?
I mean, I think it's the thing where it's, like, those big Star Wars fights are just so fast. You know, and, like, that's an element of, like, when the fighting is that fast and, like, you're, like, the people pausing aren't taking the time to think, you know what I mean? Like, that's how fast it is. Like, the pauses and, like, the waiting they're doing doesn't seem like enough time for them to just be, like, considering what they're gonna do, you know, just because that's how fast they're moving. But that's just me. Anyway, looking at the time here.
Lightsabers.
What if they made a samurai movie but with lightsabers?
What if they made one with swords?
Ooh, you know what? Yeah, we're ripping down near towards the end of this, I think. Before we get into the prop question, I have a few other questions. So I wanted to ask y'all. When me and Joseph watch these samurai movies, we talk about, like, man, wouldn't it be cool if there was a samurai movie? Like, what was the one I said today?
It's like, man, I don't even remember.
The classic one is we want a Predator movie with samurais. Yeah. Like, that's the biggest one.
That would go hard.
It would go hard. Or, like, what was the one we were talking about today? Oh, wait, no, or the one
Honestly, I'll just watch Samurai Jack until I die, because that's a mashup with every single, like setting for a genre.
Or we were talking about, like, samurai you put a samurai in a western, like, because we were talking about
our dream movie, like, that's probably way better in concept than it could ever be in execution,
because there was samurai shit going down while the old, like, how
because it was like it's 1865 and I was like, dude, the Civil War is like going on right now.
Oh man, do I have a movie for you?
Really?
Oh, is there a movie that's
have you heard
exactly
of Red
this?
Sun? I actually haven't seen this one either, but this is. I mean, this is basically what you're talking about.
Is it a samurai
yeah.
in the Old West?
Yes. Apparently takes
Hell
place
yeah.
in 1870, according to Letterboxd. But
I don't
Toshiro
know if I
Mifune's
ever
in
want to
it.
watch it.
Yep.
It'll never be as cool as what
I'm looking
I
at
have
the
in my
I'm
head.
looking at the poster. Yeah. Oh my God, it's exactly what I want.
Damn.
Oh shit.
When did it come out?
1971.
Oh shit.
What's its letter?
Is it an American movie?
No, it's a Franco-Italian international. It's a spaghetti western.
Oh my god, it's Italian.
It's a spaghetti western. Wait, hold up. What's
Those
its
damn
letterbox?
Italians and their damn westerns.
What's
Its letterbox score? That's what's
It's like
gonna.
a cultural tossed salad, I guess.
Yeah, it's really the world. It's really just like the international world's coming together.
It's Italians making movies about a Japanese guy coming to America.
It might actually be good. It's got a 3.4 on Letterboxd, which is fucking high for Letterboxd.
Okay.
It's higher than you would expect, like, this to be, like.
Yeah, because it's either like really
Wait.
cool or it sucks.
Is that Toshiro Mifune?
It is.
Yeah, they said it was.
Yep. Okay, we're watching it. we're doing an episode on this fucking movie.
Down.
Hold up.
Yeah, I thought you'd be all over that once I said that.
Oh my God. Wait, is he like the main samurai guy?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Where's this movie been my whole life?
Yeah, no, this is literally what we said. It's even got like
Thank you so much, Deep D.
the
You're so
samurai
welcome.
man. Oh my God, yeah, folks, we're doing an episode on this. Goddamn.
Hell yeah.
Does a 4K
Red
does this?
Sun.
I'm gonna do research on this later.
Superman Red Sun.
This is my new Roman Empire. Deep D, how'd you hear about this movie? Just out of curiosity.
I think I was just, like, going through Toshiro Mifune's, like, filmography, and it was like, here's a movie where he's hanging out with cowboys, and I'm like, that sounds awesome, and then I never got around to it, but I
Yeah.
will someday.
Sounds pretty cool.
You'll do it for this podcast. That's what
Fuck
it'll
yeah,
be.
dude.
That's
Oh,
what
I
it'll
mean,
be.
while we're on the topic of like little hidden Mifune movies. I mean, not exactly hidden, just like a flop, but he was in a Spielberg movie. He was in 1941, a movie that everyone saw and everyone loves.
Every time I hear that movie brought up, I immediately like it's like a flash goes in my brain like, oh shit, that exists. John Belushi?
Barbara Zemeckis. This cast is pretty.
The
fucking
one
Christopher
takeaway
Lee.
I have from like this movie is like there were like behind the scenes stories of like John Belushi and Toshiro Mifune. Like neither of them could like speak Belushi couldn't speak Japanese, Mifune couldn't speak English, but they would just like go on drinking binges together, which like
That's fucking awesome.
Oh man, I want to be.
I love that.
I want to like be in the bar with them and like just watch them.
I love that
Be
they got
bros.
along so well.
Yeah.
That was
Universal
Spielberg's
language.
first. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
Spielberg's first like big flop, wasn't it?
Drinking, the universal language. Yeah.
That was his first swing at Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah. And then budget 35 million, box office 94 million.
Yeah, 1941. I heard
it's a
not
bad
as
movie.
bad
It's
as-
not worth it.
Yeah, I heard it's not as bad as like reviews said it was, but it's still never worth watching from what I hear.
I've never seen it. I think I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's his World War II comedy, and there's nothing worse than a bad comedy.
Indeed.
Yeah,
Let's see here.
Red Sun.
Red Sun.
We're gonna watch it.
We're gonna watch it. I wanted to ask y'all what samurai crossover shit would you want to see? That's
Oh
what I was
man,
gonna ask.
that I haven't seen in Samurai Jack.
That you haven't seen, and maybe if we even ones that like concept you've seen in Samurai Jack that you'd like to see like a live action movie of, like, done well.
Man, well, I don't know. I just like the idea of a samurai transported into the distant future. That's just a cool ass idea.
I got one.
What's up?
Samurai crossed with Jurassic Park.
Okay. Just killing velociraptors.
Samurai's fighting dinosaurs.
All right. How about you, Deepti?
Good question. I mean, Red Sun does kind of cover it. I do remember in
Yeah.
high school, like, thinking, like, oh man, like, I didn't even like Fistful of Dollars, but I was like, oh man, it'd be so cool if, like, Clint Eastwood's character and Toshiro Mifune's character hung out.
Yeah.
If
You could definitely,
Yojimbo-
like, find fan art of them hanging out together, which is, like, I still think is cool.
and doing other things together, I'm for sure.
The ultimate crossover is Toshiro Mifune and John Belushi. I still can't get over that. That's fucking awesome.
Imagining them hanging out and drinking is definitely cool.
I love that exists. That gives me hope for everything.
Actually, you know what I want?
Peace on planet Earth.
Yeah, exactly.
I want like a movie about like the making. I want like The Disaster Artist, but Seven Samurai, where it's like a movie about like the making of that movie.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be down.
That'd be cool.
I'd see that in the theater.
I want way more things like that. I feel like we're gonna get more of that depending on. There's a movie coming out soon called SNL 1975, and it's about like. It's basically like a behind the scenes of like an episode of SNL.
Have you ever heard of Wired?
No, what's Wired?
Deep D, have you ever heard of Wired?
Like the magazine?
No. Wired is an unauthorized biography of John Belushi that's apparently completely disavowed by his family. Sorry, I'm interrupting LC, and I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I want to hear about
it. It's the most disrespectful movie you've ever seen.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, they hate it, and it's like really shitty movie. And I believe because the author of the book that the movie's based on is in the movie, and John Belushi is like, God. What something like his like angel or something is like, why didn't you listen to the writer of this book about not doing drugs, John Belushi? That's one that we should not watch.
4% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, it's a piece of shit, but it's just an interesting little historical curiosity, and Toshiro Mifune is not in it.
Overall I think I want more movies based on making movies, or I want weird takes on it. Like, what's that? There's a movie that's about like the making of Nosferatu.
Oh, interesting.
But the whole thing,
Shadow of the Vampire, I think it's called.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called. It's about the making of Nosferatu, but the idea is like they got an actual vampire to play Nosferatu, like to play Count Orlok.
Oh, that's like recent, isn't it?
Yeah, it came out within the last 10 years or so. It's not, but I don't know. I want more.
Cool.
I'm a big fan of.
It's pretty good. Willem Dafoe plays Nosferatu. I mean, like,
down.
That's all you need.
No, I'm gonna see it.
Yeah, I mean, overall, like, I don't know. I'm a big fan of movies about making movies, or like movies where filmmakers and actors play themselves. Like This Is the End. There was I remember when This Is the End came out. There was an interview with Seth Rogen, and he was talking about like their concept for the second movie, where like. This Is the End 2 would open with the cast of This Is the End walking out of the premiere of This Is the End.
Okay.
So it's like, like the first movie is a movie, and they're dealing with a different kind of apocalypse, like an alien invasion or something, and they're like, fuck, what did we do in the movie?
I remember watching This Is the End and being like, God damn, I wish I was watching the Cornetto trilogy.
I have a not so fun story about This Is the End.
Hell yeah.
I kind of.
How not so fun is it?
Well, it's traumatic for me, but I think y'all will find it interesting.
Okay.
So This Is the End came out in 2012 or 2013, I think. 2013, and I was 14 when it came out. And I had a friend of mine who was 13, who was younger than me. They will remain nameless. And we were going to see Man of Steel in the theater. Like, I had already seen it, and I wanted to see it again because I was, at the time,
Zack Snyder!
14-year-old me was all about that Man of Steel.
You're not the person you used to be. You've changed.
I'm a changed man, for sure. But we were going to see Man of Steel. My friend hadn't seen Man of Steel. And we got to the theater, and this theater, when you walk in, like, on their little digital thing, it says, like, the movie, what the movie's rated, and showtimes. So they were showing This Is the End, and they must have fucked up because they had This Is the End labeled as PG-13.
Oh God!
Instead of rated R, and we were like, "Oh shit, let's try to see This Is the End." Like they fucked it up, and we got it, and we got tickets to see This Is the End.
That's hilarious.
And it even said PG-13 on the ticket, right? And
that movie is a very high level R,
very rated R, super rated R. So yeah, we watched This Is the End, our little preteen hijinks, and so. This is the kind of fucked up part. So I went home to tell my mom about it. Like, yeah, we got into, and I thought that she was gonna find it funny, but she was fucking pissed because she didn't care about what I watched, but she was pissed that about me taking my friend to go see it because she was like, you don't know what this person's parents is gonna be, and like she was just so mad, and I didn't expect it at all. I thought she was gonna find it funny.
Oh, that's sad.
So now when I watch this, I have this like
you have that pang of guilt.
Yeah, I have
shame.
This traumatic experience associated with this at the end, so I can't watch it. And it sucks because I liked that. I mean, I do like that movie. I think it's funny, but whenever I watch it, like it's just the association.
You think about the how bad of a boy you were.
I was, yes, a bad boy. Okay, Mom, I'll go watch Man of Steel.
That is sad. Yeah, I'll go watch Superman kill people instead.
I'll go watch The World's End instead. Yeah. It's funnier anyway.
I do like The World's End way better.
Indeed, yeah. The whole Cornetto trilogy. I used to watch the Cornetto trilogy every year on my birthday.
Yeah,
the Edgar Wright was. I mean, he's kind of fallen in the. He was my favorite filmmaker. Period.
Bummer.
But my tastes have changed. So yeah, guys. I guess before we get into the prop question, which I don't know how I want to do it with these 4 movies that we've been talking about, is there anything? I remember the important thing. It doesn't have to be in these 4 movies for you, Deep. If somebody came up to you and asked, if a friend of yours came up and asked, like, "Hey, I want to get into these samurai movies. Which one should I start with?" What would you recommend people start with?
Ooh, I mean, because I would recommend the one that got me started, which was Yojimbo. I feel like it's, yeah, and that was like, I want to say my first time even watching a black and white movie for a long time. But like, I mean, visually it's so great. Like, it's very, tonally it's not like, stiff and formal at all, like you would expect an old samurai movie to be, like, just, out of assumption. I think it'd be a great starting place.
Yeah, that's fair. Mine, it would probably either be Sword of Doom or Harikari, but probably Harikari. Even though, like, it would depend on who I'm recommending it to. But I'm selfish, so I'm just gonna recommend my favorite one. It's like, this is probably the best one. It's like a solid story. It's got a really solid payoff at the end. You see these guys walking around with swords, and then they actually use them right at the end when you don't expect it. That'd be my pick. How about you, LC?
I've been thinking about it since I was talking to you about it earlier, and now that I do. You have to set aside time for it. Like, you gotta be able to take an evening, and like really commit to sitting down. But I do think that Seven Samurai really covers like everything, as far as like you get your traditional samurai characters, and you get that, and then you also do get, I think within that movie you get a traditional samurai film, but you also get the critique of it as well, with like Toshiro Mifune's character and like his, the fact that he's not a real samurai and stuff. Like you're able to get that, like, struggling with that concept. And I feel like you get like 3 samurai movies in one with Seven Samurai.
Yeah.
And then from there you can kind of watch whichever one. Like, you can, I think like you could watch Sword of Doom right after that one, or like whichever one. I think it's a big commitment at first, but then from there you can jump off to wherever, I think.
Okay.
And that's my opinion.
That makes sense. LC.
Yeah. And now to the prop question. There are 4 movies, but I feel like it's
pick
a bit,
one.
I'm gonna say you can have we can pick 2 props from across these 4 movies.
Okay.
What are you taking? Deepti, do you have in mind your props?
I'm always at a loss for this question. I want to say, I mean, here's an anecdotal answer, is that for a while I was like, I never got around to it, but I really wanted to, like, go into Animal Crossing and like recreate the courtyard from Harakiri. I don't know why I really wanted to do that, but like I never got around to it, but that was something I had in my heart.
It's so attainable.
Yeah, you put down some patterns, it's very feasible. Get some blood splatter on there. I mean, I feel like there's that like empty suit of armor that he grabs onto during the climax of Harakiri that just kind of seemed fun to swing around. And maybe just like, a regular sword, maybe a bamboo sword. That'd be fun to swing around, not use on anybody.
Yeah.
Nice. I want the hand that the dog is carrying in
Yojimbo. Yeah.
And also just a sword. Just anybody's sword.
That's such a good pick. I'm not going to take a sword because I don't want to be basic.
Well, no sword for you, I guess.
No, I don't need no sword. Actually, so my first item is I want the big dumb moon helmet from Throne of Blood.
The biggest moon helmet of all.
It's got
He had
the
that
biggest.
shit on. Yeah.
What?
He had that shit on. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed, he did. And I was always saying,
through
man,
any doors with that thing.
when you're riding through the trees, it's gonna get hooked on something.
Yeah.
You're gonna get flung. Yeah. So the big moon helmet, and then not a sword, but you know the big guy from Yojimbo
Oh, that hammer.
with the hammer. Yeah.
Jimbo.
Oh hell yeah.
The big. Yeah.
The titular Jimbo.
the
Jimbo himself.
It was pissing me off. There was a review Yojimbo I was watching, and they kept calling the character Yojimbo, but
That's really funny.
Yojimbo's not his name.
They say Yojimbo, and the subtitle says bodyguard. Like it's.
Yeah. Like you should know at this point.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Oh wait, no, that's something that you know what, Deep T. There's something you might, as more of an expert on Japanese things, you might be able to help me with this. So the whole thing about like he says that his name is Sanjuro, which means like 30-year-old, like is
30-year-old wheat field or barley field or something.
Is there like a cultural translation thing that I'm just not picking? I thought that it was a weird, like, why would people call him that kind of thing? Like, is there something I'm missing there?
So that was actually something I didn't catch until the second time I saw the movie. But basically, like the bit there is that like, because like right before he says that, he like looks out at the fields and he sees the mulberry field. So he's like, "Oh, my name's 30-year-old mulberry field." Like he's just making that shit up on the spot. Like it's probably not his actual name.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in the sequel, I think he calls himself like, I want to say Sanjuro Tsubaki, which is like 30-year-old hibiscus bush, something like that. So like, it's basically a man with no name thing. Like he's just making that shit up.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know. It must be a translation, like just the.
Is the age thing what's throwing you off?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think about like. It just must be just how Japanese and English are so differently structured, because like in English, if somebody said my name is 30 years old, that like functionally that wouldn't work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just assumed it's just like the way Japanese names work.
Like I'm looking out at like our window at a street sign, which I'm not gonna say. I don't want
dox us.
Yeah, I don't want people to know our location, but like fucking my name is fucking looking at things.
Just pick a thing, dude.
Looking at things in the room. My name is King or whatever, and like, okay, that's a name, so I can believe that's someone's name.
Yeah,
you know,
you wouldn't say I'm 54-year-old King.
Exactly. You know, and like
I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I think that is basically how Japanese names work. I'm not like much more of a cultural expert, but like I can tell you, like, for example, the characters in Toshiro Mifune's name, like Mifune means like 3 boats. Like that is kind of how the naming system works in Japanese. I don't know if Sanjuro's a normal name, but I mean he made it sound like it was.
Yeah, I mean it looks.
No one believed him anyway.
It looks cool on the Blu-ray cover. That's for sure. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna do. I don't know. I guess I got to revisit. Joseph hasn't seen Sandro. I've seen Sanjuro once, and I wasn't a huge fan of it. How do you feel about that movie, Deep D?
Sanjuro for me is like, because I really like Mifune's character in Yojimbo, so for me Sanjuro is just like, hey, here's like another hour you get to spend hanging out with this guy from this movie, and I'm like, awesome, I fucking love that guy, you know?
Sick.
I will say if you do an episode, it might be worth pairing with Kill, which is a Nakadai movie that's like also loosely based off the same source material. Because I think what Sanjuro was it was supposed to be an adaptation of a novel, and then I don't know if it was the studio or Kurosawa, but he was just like, let me just put this guy back in here, and like that was what they ended up doing. Yeah, but that might be a fun little compare and contrast.
Yeah, that would be a good one to do in the future.
What's your prop, LC?
I said my props.
Wait, what were they?
Big hammer.
Oh yeah, the big hammer.
Big hammer moon helmet.
I was lost in the Jimbo joke that I made.
Yo, Jimbo. I'll wear one, and I'll wear the hammer, and I'll swing the helmet.
And you'll swing the helmet.
Yeah. So yeah, if there's anything more to say, guys, this has been Midnight Movie Gang. thank you so much, listeners out there, for listening. Joseph, Deepty, thank you so much for coming on the show, as always.
Welcome.
Deepty, thank you for coming on. Next, I don't know what we're doing next week.
We're just screaming. Just gonna scream into the microphones for an hour and a half.
Maybe. I feel like something is coming out soon that I really want. Wait, when's Trap coming out? When's M. Night Shyamalan's new masterpiece coming out?
They just keep getting better.
Yeah. Actually, that's what I think we should do. We've been wanting to do a Shyamalan we need to watch Unbreakable and The Sixth Sense.
Okay.
And then we'll do a Shyamalan episode. I think that'd be fun.
Hell yeah.
Because we had a lot of conversations about Shyamalan when we watched Signs for the commentary. So
and our differing opinions.
Yeah. Oh, it comes out August 2nd. Trap. So we'll see.
It can't come soon enough.
Yeah. But yeah. So sorry. This has been Midnight Movie Gang. Thank you for listening. Please follow us and on Instagram at Midnight Movie Gang. We're also on YouTube. Try to make that the main platform. Also at Midnight Movie Gang, TikTok, same thing. If you've been listening for a minute, please join our Patreon to get early access to the content. Basically, on the Patreon, you get everything 2 days early. So instead of new episodes on Wednesday, you get them on Monday. New videos Wednesday instead of Friday. And also the commentary tracks, like we said. And thank you so much for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Toodles.
Have a nice night.
So, here we go. With childish frustrations and complexes which the police are searching for James Thomas, believed to be the lover of Miss Williams, and her partner in the horrible murder of Walter. Where's everybody that I'm here to walk on? Oh, please tell me where they've gone. Please tell me. Sorry, I don't know. How long is it? How could I got in here? Please take us to Albany on 6 o'clock train tonight. What do you think? Special agent, special agent.